Hey, what's up, Facebook? Just come on for a second. Had something on my mind. It has to do with being warned by people of authority, people with power, people with resources. But shit, it could be a drug addict in the street. It could be a relative. It could be just somebody that's telling you something in the form of a warning. And you're smart. You'll take that person on face value. And what I mean by that is you can't put anything past anyone, nobody. Well, I've been warned over a handful of times, some verbally, shit, even some in writing, coming from people that I know are very much capable of carrying out that warning as recently as this year. Give you a warning. Well, okay, what are the consequences of that warning this year, recently? You know, you're gonna do something to me. You're gonna harm me. You're gonna bring more grief in my life. You know, with the shit that I've been through, the people I've encountered, the only thing I do is stay prayed up and hope that my soul live again in the situation that you decide to carry your warning out. I don't know why I would deserve it. Haven't lied on you. Haven't lied on anybody. I pretty much just stay to myself. It's kind of hard to function around a lot of different people, especially if I'm not in line with doing business with them because of prior experience. So I stay where my mind is at ease for the simple reason I know that that boundary can be stepped on, it can be crossed, you know. But listen, if a motherfucker warn you and tell you in writing they're considering hiring an expert for you, and I ask in writing again, please clarify what type of expert. Immediately, right off bat, right off the rip, I know that I've been threatened. I know that I've been threatened by you. I'm not behind a brick wall. I'm not in a castle on top of a hill. You know, I'm I have to walk through life just open and only on the faith that God has me. You know, and just reflecting back, if I went to your company in line with doing business with your company and I was rejected, and I'm not going to say forced because I didn't argue to stay. I got my ass in the road. I left. I knew that for some strange reason, my welcome there, regardless of the actual agreement we had, has been, it's it's not what it should have been. So I left her, never to return. But tell me why, now that I'm on my job, which is not a retail operation, why is it that employees from your company are on my job? You know, really within an unsafe distance, a close enough distance to take photos, which I did, and visually ID this person, not knowing who they were, who he was. Only significant features about him: really big forearms, like Popeye. Big old dude, big old forearms. Like, I don't know if he was an athlete or what, but just extremely big forearms for a guy his size. From what I seen with him sitting in his truck, parked right across the 2-lane highway from me, with nothing to do, not on the phone, not checking directions, just parked there. You know, I didn't think much of it, but I thought a lot of it. Hey, this is unusual. So I take the photo and I continue my day working. He stayed there for, long enough to take a couple of photos. Well, now, moving forward, it's, to sit here and vent about my prior situation may not enthuse a lot of people. And if it doesn't bother me one bit. It's just a situation I experienced, a lesson in life that I experienced. But I know under no circumstances should have anyone from that retail operation been on my job location in a whole nother town, maybe 30 to 40 miles away, after, before the summons even returned, before the summons was even returned. But I was unaware, so it really didn't trigger me as much, but that thought, it's always that thought. So just moving forward about warnings. A person don't necessarily have to say anything. They can show you. And I've already made myself, as far as I know, as right with my maker as I possibly could, can, and will continuously. But When you take people of a high authority, attorneys, people that just show up at your workplace or wherever you're working at the time with messages that really reflect a unaliving. This warning was delivered by a woman. Only had a picture of her little blue car with the stickers in the back windshield. Found me in a place that my phone would have had to been tapped to know where I was that day. And why I remember it so vividly is because it's the same day that I walked into the courthouse in an attempt to bring notice to some harassment and my coming in the findings of the retaliation and me representing myself at the time, trying to explain this on paper. Hey, these things are happening and these things are happening and I am noticing this frequently, odd hours of the night. It's a hell of a situation to be in, knowing of the power of the opposition, the opposing. Well, at this time I'm praying about it, as long as I'm in the right spot to live again. I have no other choice but to respect it and just be in the knowing that it could be at any time. So yeah, you sleep lightly and you stress a lot. It does curb your enjoyment of life. It does. It takes away. It's a takeaway of happiness because no matter what you're doing, and it may be you may meet a great person, you may be dating, you may have one of the best dates of your life. You may be doing something that you enjoy. And instantly that thought or thoughts of multiplied by multiple, enters your mind and it strikes any enjoyment that you have at that particular moment. No matter how hard you try to make it not appear, it comes there and it's like a race on a chalkboard. Okay? Well, this is the position I've been in. I've been put in. Not only is, let's look at it from the other side. Maybe the guy that was on my job, hey, let me see what this guy looked like. So this is the guy that filed a complaint against me. Yeah, well, in order for you to know that, there had to be information released to have my address, to have known where I work. So after I leave my house in the morning, get to my job location. From my job location, go to one, two, or very rarely 3 different service stations, depending on location of which direction we're working to get fuel, snacks, refreshment, ice. So therefore, you had to actually follow me to multiple places in order to find out what job location I was working on. And then you had to actually travel quite a ways to be noticed as far away from the usual job locations right around the city of Jacksonville. That's fine, you know. I've never, after the information was released on 2 managers, I never visited anybody's address. Shit. I didn't want to be where. I didn't want to see you. I didn't want to know where you lived at. I just wanted some peace at this time, because shit, my life being just tore down brick from brick at the chain, you know, and the last thing I want to do is look in the face of my oppressor. So, you know, just moving forward, me noticing after depositions, you know, 2 managers when there were actually 3, but it never made disclosure. They've all gotten raises, got promotions within the same year that this happened, amongst other affiliates whom got promoted. Hey, congratulations. You know, hey, everybody need the opportunity to come up. That's everybody, whether I like you or dislike you. And I don't think I dislike nobody. I may dislike people's ways, but I don't want to have to stand before my maker and bow my head in shame that I had a fucked up heart towards anybody in life, whether they hate me or not. I deserve to be hated. I ain't perfect. I done did fucked up shit before. But just for the record, even before the year of 2020, I've been this way. For the simple reason, shit, life, I experienced life at an early age, always noticing my blessing, the way they came, no matter how small or big. I always noticed my blessing. And I knew that God had his hands on me, even in the struggles. And if I had a few $100s in my pocket, there wasn't very far I had to go to get a few more $100, as long as I put forth an effort and try my best to stay on the right side of right. You know, outside of the, you know, the other shit, I pretty much always try my best to respect people. And when I found myself not respecting a person or respecting people about some, you know, I would ask for forgiveness. And sometimes God would show me a lesson to make me look back and reflect. Yeah, you did this. Yeah, I did. Try not to do that no more. God, I appreciate you opening my eyes to that. And that was fucked up. You know, but you know my heart. But just moving along, warnings. What is a warning that you don't have to speak to another person? When you can show them by photo that you have a dislike for a type of people for no reason. I couldn't dare sit here and say I didn't like white people or Hispanic people or Iranian people for the simple reason that I know better. You'll never know who would pull you out of a burning vehicle, who would do surgery on you to save your life, who would feed you if you didn't have nothing to eat. I've been in that situation before. Some people that come here from across the border, I ate with them every day. Taco, burritos, because I ain't have shit. Not even the first check. This was early in life. So I respect people. But I also take people on face value. Like a lot of people should. That way you don't have to carry around unnecessary baggage. If a person's doing something to you that you don't like and you know that they're aware of it, then why are you still trying to convince this person that, hey, or convince yourself maybe it'll change? You know, it happened once, it happened twice, it didn't happen 8 times, 10 times, 20 times. The longer you stay around that particular energy, the more you're going to have to intake, absorb. If I say the correct word, subdue. If you're in the knowing. But if you're not in the knowing and these things are happening, you're being the pin on your head and tell you it's raining, when you see that everything you do, including the scary things that are happening in your life, you take it to someone that should be able and by a oath to uphold, and you find that they let you fall to the wayside. You find yourself being exposed to the elements, exposed to mean people, exposed to people that, you know, that take chunks out of you. You know, these are well-off people, people that, you know, before that particular day that documents hit the pipeline, you know, to be filed. You never knew them. You never would have sat down and ate dinner with them, sat at the same table with them, and planned anything, because that is not your, how can I put it, equivalent person in life. They're doing their job. You're doing yours. It shares no common interest. But when you file this complaint, then their involvement is pertinent to an outcome. But this outcome is impacted and actually put together. So now one person has to lose. One party has to lose. One party has to win. So who is the winner going to be, regardless of what the complaint's about? Well, you wouldn't know what the complaint's about if it wasn't ever filed correctly. You won't know the facts of the complaint if your witnesses aren't included. There was something that happened to me. I was under sanction. You're not following directions, Mr. Ray. You're being non-compliant You're being non-compliant, Mr. Ray. And I'm doing every single thing I can. I'm calling, I'm communicating with these people on a regular. If I can't get, or a lot of times things were vague and on the request. And some things I flat out gave, even though I knew from watching television, hey, I shouldn't have to do this, but I have nothing to hide. Here's my medical records. Here's my phone bill. Here's my call log. Here's my text message. This is what I had in my back pocket, which put me totally in compliance the first day that I entered that store. But for some reason, you haven't given us this. You haven't given us that. So now, the only thing that I'm holding sacred to me is my grandfather's car. Eddie Ray, Sr. He's a veteran. I felt special that I got the car out of all his grandkids and his children. And I really love that car. Sometimes I believe that car will go places when I know I didn't have enough gas in it. But at the end of the day, now you want to send an expert to my home, to my dwelling. And I told him, I won't have nobody, desecrating my grandfather's car. Meaning, I need to know what's going on. I need to know what's the process. Well, I was told by the opposing, they'll only inspect, check the VIN numbers, and okay, there's nothing to inspect. Okay, let me write all this down. This is the type motor in it. This is the type motor that's being completed. This is the transmission that's being completed. These are the things going on with the car. Here's the VIN number. Here's the registration to the car. But yet, you want to send an expert. So, going back and forth again, another day of missed work. And I'm sitting there at home, and it was strange that the person that was supporting this inspection by expert was late. And the actual inspector made it there right about on time. Nice day outside. And it was only 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes after the opposing counsel made it there. I was standing underneath my canopy letting the inspector do his job. He checked the VIN numbers, looked in the doors, and evaluated, looked at the motor, asked me what size the motor was. And I explained it to him. He knew cars. He knew his way around them. It was an LS swap. But as soon as the opposing counsel made it there, it began to rain. It began to pour down on him. I offered this guy, hey, man, come on my porch, man, out the rain. And he came onto my porch. And we talked briefly about nothing really. But all the time, I have offered, I'm not going to say he was my enemy, but he treated me as an enemy. But I offered him shelter out of the rain, pouring down rain. So to make a long story short, the process is over with now. You came in, after you came in, the document for the reason you were there, you wouldn't allow the expert to read it, to finish it. Okay. You twisted up the actual truth because it wasn't a race car. It wasn't ever a race car, so it wouldn't have race car race car components, really. So that was the entry. Now you're under a court order to do this. I missed work to comply. And as much as I hated another man touching on my grandfather's car in that fashion over that reason, I allowed it to happen, knowing that it was unnecessary and only just a smack in my face, because the court said, the person with the inherent power said, let's do this. It has to be done. Well, and after the guy got done with the results, the expert, he was a tad bit upset. You know, he wasn't necessarily upset, but he was more concerned, like, okay, now this is over with. Who's paying for this? Because there's nothing wrong here. This is a simple LS swap in a 86 Chevy Capri. Who's gonna pay me? Now, why is it that I wouldn't have a copy of the documentation for your entry or a copy of the results and the process of what the expert did on my property? And you took it and left under court order. I've yet to see the award paper at this point. So that's what I mean, you know. You're the same person that told me by email that you were considering hiring an expert. And I know that you are way capable of doing so. And if that be, I can't be scared. I can't run scared, you know. I can't hide from something that is gonna happen to me. Only thing I can do is be a man and stand up for myself. But yeah, you smeared shit in my face on that, because you used the court's orders to come in to do that. And there is no result from that process. And I just ask respectfully to any and everybody whom I hold no grudge against. God said there is no need to. But at the end of the day, how would you feel if you were being ran over and just utilized just because you're not inside of the loop? Hey, I'm a working person. I don't have much. Don't have what you call an awesome job. I have work. It's what it is. It's work. And I respect that, because that's what God put before me. But at the same time, I don't understand how people would get promoted for doing certain things against right. And how is it that I could be judged with so many material evidence says that absolutely got no acknowledgement, but yet I'm receiving warnings? If you're going to the court system, if you're a criminal, you get what you deserve. If you're right, you get what you deserve. But for the powerful, power means being able to do exactly any fucking thing you want to do to whoever, whenever and however, and not have to deal with a consequence. This is my truth. This is how I feel about the situation. You know what I mean? And I just need to let it all out, because my day in court wouldn't have been a fair day in court. God told me that. And he put things before me that actually stopped me or delayed me being misinformed, for one thing, and not having my excuse of why accepted by a judge and body when there were no other falsehoods or lies spoken on my behalf this whole entire process. So why would there be a reason to not believe what I said in comparison to 50 lies, 70 lies, 114 lies? Why would you not believe the only one thing? You downplayed it and made it look as if I was just telling the court system a lie. Who on earth with no prior law practice experience would be dumb enough or brave enough to go into a federal court system and tell a lie? Now, there's two sides to that coin, but it just so happened that one side's going to support the other, for the simple reason there was a misunderstanding of what I read due to the duress I was in and my situation. And there were other things that came into the play that were questionable. But either way, didn't make it on time. It'd been times I was an hour early. Never heard anything said about that. So the following week, I took the times and got them screwed up. And there was a witness to that. So, out of all respect to everybody, God bless everybody and everything that they do. But why push me back? Well, I guess my life mean nothing, to go through a process of such, be treated as such, and come out on the other end still in a form of duress and having life just open up to you for what it really is. That's all. Hey, just know we got a great God and he love everybody. And if we're smart and want to live again, people would do right about the next person. Nobody want their soul to stop. Even out the light of the flesh. You don't want your soul to stop. If it's that hard to like somebody and treat them right, get the fuck from around. But people gonna hate you for whatever you do. So, at the end of the day, you can't, hey, damn if you do, damn if you don't. know, once something show itself, once energy show itself, you can't unsee it. You know, once you have awareness of something, you just can't forget it. And these type of things stick with you forever until you find better memories to replace them with. Everybody want, you know, someone to say something nice over them. You don't stand up at nobody's funeral and speak no fake shit. You know, if you was a lying person and you die, somebody should say you was a lying person. Don't necessarily have to be in a bad way, you know. If you were a good person, hey, let somebody say something good about me. You know. But it's all about your circle. You know. Who really got who back? Nobody really. Everybody want to have a decent legacy. That's, you know, anybody. You know, if I ain't got shit, dirt, poor, and broke the rest of my day, I'm fine with that if that's God's will, because that's the direction. If God wants something different, he'll put me on a different path. But at the end of the day, if I leave out of here with absolutely nothing, I've lived for the 46 years I've been here. I'm grateful that God gave me these 46, no matter how hard they were. But can't nobody say, you know, in my legacy that I was nothing but dirt. I'd helped you if I could. And if for some reason I ain't like something about you, I try my best to avoid your ass. So I'm back in Mississippi now. Because I didn't like the situation, and the situation it fucked my life up. It created a bunch of ripples in my memory. And these things can go on and on and on. And there's nobody that you can actually hire that's going to give you better advice on life, about your life, than God himself. They may assist you. I had one of them, but come to find out that particular person, she was a doctor. That particular person gave really good advice, but she let me know that it was strictly business, because at some point she cut ties with me. One, because I wasn't paying her. It was just that she cut ties with me. Don't know why. Like I say, some information. Didn't cut ties until I gave information to the court. Just out the blue, she cut me loose. At a time where I was not even sure of myself. But hey, it's God's will. It is what it is. Hey, love everybody. Don't mistreat nobody. If you gotta mistreat them or talk about them or do them bad, get the fuck away from them.